we're going to try to see if we can put cyber to bed and
You're gonna take a hack at it?
come back out of the netherworld, so we have time to vote on some other bills. That is our goal. Huh?
Yeah. He's right.
Yes. Is there a right answer on that? I don't know, Senator. Knowing we have all these bills, maybe some of your delegates that'll move us quicker on the cyber. Okay. This is our plan of attack today, and I'm open to suggestions. We had 2 or 3 outstanding issues from yesterday. Public safety was an issue we're trying to resolve. We thought that could be done modestly, maybe. We have the purchasing and that list of people who we think are on there either for the right reason or the wrong reason. And then there are some very small amendments. I think we dealt with more of the substantive ones already that I want to scoot through as quickly as possible and get agreement from the committee to adopt them or to reject them. Then, if possible, given the decisions we've made, I'd like to take an up or down vote on the 2 bills before us. So that's the plan, unless someone has an alternative. Okay, I know there are a couple of amendments. There she is. Let's start with the public safety, if we have any language that might get us to yes. I'm going to
All right, so
lead us, Madam Counsel.
amendments to that are requested from Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services begin on page 4 of the new packet, which is voting list 50. I think we have up to 3 packets at this point, so it's the new one. This is 1346.
There are some freestanding amendments in packet 50, but we're still using the reprint that we've been using, voting list 43.
Right.
So we're going to have to coordinate the pages. So keep that in mind when you walk us through their amendments.
So the amendment that has been requested from the department is to amend that section, section 5 of House Bill 1346, which would have required essentially do it to assume a leadership role of the cybersecurity systems if the departments or the state agencies did not comply with minimum standards by a certain date, that date being October 1st, 2023, or actually June 30th of 2023. So they requested a subtle carve-out, which would read, certification for the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services.
Ms. Foxworth, what page in 50 and what page in the,
Page 4 in the new packet.
So
okay.
it's a 4 packet voting list 50.
Okay, and where do we roll that? On page 40 of the bill?
Page 40 of the bill, which coincides with page 67 of the Friday reprint.
Hold on.
Actually,
I'm sorry. The reprint is list
67.
number 42. I apologize, I said 43. And this amendment on page 4 goes to page 40 of the bill, I would assume.
Right, 40 of the bill, page 67 of the reprint on voting list number 42.
Okay, so we want to be on the same page, literally. Page 4 of packet 50 and page 66 or 40 of the bill in voting list 42.
Yep, 67.
We all good? Please
Yep.
continue.
So, language requested, which would amend Section 5, would suggest that certification for the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services and any other state criminal justice agencies will be reviewed instead of by the Department of Information Technology through the Office of Security Management. It would be reviewed, certified by the Office of Legislative Audits. So the certifying agency is changed under subsection A. Then there is softer language under subsection B, which suggests that even if the agency does not certify to, in this instance, it would be OLA, if they don't certify that they meet minimum standards through DO-IT, instead of DO-IT taking over their cybersecurity systems, they would provide guidance. So DO it would provide guidance to these particular, all agencies, not just department, all agencies, to get them in certification, get them back in alignment with DO it. So they guide instead of assuming authority.
There are two different issues. Are they both coming from, in other words, that OLA will review corrections, safety. I don't know if that alleviates their concern about their privacy and their personnel file or files of their inmates or whatever.
I think so.
But B, is that from them or is that from somebody else? I'm trying to understand. I want to be clear and have different buckets here.
So this was from the department, but I think the priority is with A.
Okay, well, yes. B is a separate issue, which we've talked about for a few days now. So that's not what we asked for. Is the issue that you shared with us yesterday about central repository and protected information, is that addressed with the new 3 in parens?
Yes. Jennifer Beska, Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. Yes. May I clarify?
Sure,
Okay.
but
So-
B does open another can of worms, just so you understand.
When I spoke with Alexis today, some of this may be a formatting issue. The language, so in the first part of it, the Office of Legislative Audits is already approved through language to be able to audit those records we were concerned about with the federal contracts. So that takes care of that for us. In speaking with our Assistant Attorney General and our IT people today, again, they are concerned about the language in B that would allow the takeover of the system. So what they were looking for was to provide guidance to assure compliance because they're already compliant. And they're not, it's not a matter of it should apply to every agency. I was just trying to figure out how to work it in.
I'm going to make an executive decision here. We're going to split these amendments, and if B doesn't work, come up in the next 12 months, and we'll work
Okay.
it out. Because that opens up another issue that I think we had already put to bed. So, committee, small 3 on page 5, we think will take care of much of their concern. Any objection to adopting that amendment? Seeing none, that's adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on this amendment? Okay. Now, is there an amendment on the purchasing, on the in and out? Okay, let's go to page 44 and 45 in the big packet.
Before we leave that,
Okay.
we just adopted 3 in the italics, certification.
Correct, just for that department.
Right. So they're certified, but it doesn't necessarily address what happens if they're not certified, then they still have the same issue, I would think.
They will still fall under the existing B language. We're not changing that.
Right, but wasn't that the core of their problem, was that another agency was coming in and looking at the data?
That was part of their question. But the original language said a shared responsibility. I think that can be worked out. I don't think if there's a hack, an incident, or whatever, if DeWitt comes in, I don't think they want to take control of their, what did we call it, their central repository.
Okay, I'm just saying, I don't think that amendment we adopted addressed what they were saying, because that's dealing with the certification, not the coming in and looking at the data and trying to help fix it.
Well, it's about reviewing it, too. It's about who would review it. It wouldn't be do it, it'd be OLA, who's already been approved by the agency. I'm not sure, but B raises more problems. Okay, let's go, I know Senator Kagan has an amendment, we'll come back to that. Let's go to page 44 and 45 of the packet. We left and we didn't resolve the issue of, or did we? We put legislative and judicial in a separate brand, in a separate area, which we approved. And did we vote to remove 8 through 11?
We did, we adopted that.
Okay, so are there still issues in terms of in and out? You
think
said
with
you had
the-
someone that prepared an amendment.
So, based off of what we adopted under this approval of projects, the only folks that would be exempt outside of the non-voted language would be legislative branch and judicial branch. I don't think that poses a problem under current law anyway, because they have their own mechanisms. So, I don't think this is changing anything. Taking them out was the biggest change from the House, actually the only change from the House for SBE, State Board of Elections, Office of Attorney General, Comptroller, and State Treasurer.
Is those 4 were taken out yesterday, and 12 and 13 show up later on in the bill?
In a separate issue.
Yes. Okay, so we're straight there.
Yep.
Okay. I see Senator Kagan in your packet had an amendment. Can we explain that and tell us where to look?
So this is actually in 1202. So unless there's another Senator Hester amendment, I'm looking at 1202 on page 3 in voting list number 50, which modifies.
Page 7.
Okay. Actually is going to be page 65 of the packet. And so this section, lines 15 through 22, are procedures for local governments to report a cybersecurity incident. They have to. Local government is still contemplated in terms of reporting. So local governments have to report the incidents to the local emergency manager and the Security Operations Center and the Joint Operations Center within MEMA and the Security Operations Center within DO-IT. And so there's additional language for, the question arose as to when the cybersecurity incidents have to be reported to the public. Now, the reporting is based off of the State Information Security Officer. The State Chief Information Security Officer determines when, the severity of the attacks that need to be reported. And then this language identifies who they report to. So Senator Kagan's, amendment is suggesting that the Maryland Joint Operations Center, after they receive an attack, after they receive a notification from the locals about an attack, based off of criteria from the Department of Information Technology, that they are going to release that information to the public every quarter.
Okay, the existing language on 65 are basically internal reporting to different agencies. I read this to be the public reporting. Is that am I correct?
So it's not, it won't be released to the public, but it's the locals reporting it to those particular agencies. So, but public, not sure what that's getting to, because I think the question is, how public should it be? Because we're not requiring it to be released to the public. It's going to go to emergency managers, Department of Information Technology, and Department of Emergency Management.
Right. But on page 65, we're talking about internal reporting, local governments to the agency, joint operations to the affected agency on cybersecurity. And this new amendment on page 7 is about notifying the public.
Right.
Okay. Okay,
May I speak to it?
sure, that's before us. It's been moved. Is there a second to get it on the floor? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first off, this amendment came to me from the Maryland, Delaware, DC Press Association, and I might have had that in the wrong order, or the concept of this. And the question is, what should be public and transparent? And there are certainly incidents or hacks or disruptions or whatever that we really don't want on the street right away. But once a quarter, seems like there ought to be some accountability and some information to the press and to the general public. So I think, Ms. Foxworth, that as rated and numbered as number 4, it looks like it would go actually where you had it originally, which is page 40 or 66.
Oh, that is.
Because it's
yeah.
number 4, so it's after number 3, which is bottom of 65, number 3. The MJOC shall immediately notify the appropriate agencies of a cybersecurity incident reported, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, the MJOC would notify the public, but just once every quarter. So I think actually you're right about page 40, right after line 2. So,
Okay, I have one question, and is, do it here? Okay. A reported cybersecurity incident. I think I've heard that our systems are attacked hundreds of times each day. They don't get access from intruders. So I guess my question is, does this include, how do we define cybersecurity incidents? So that's either for the maker of the motion or for do it.
In the bill, the Chief Information Security Officer actually says what an incident is, but that has not been, that has not been figured out yet. We haven't, it says in the bill that the Chief Information Security Officer shall figure out what an incident, I don't know the exact language, but that's what it says. So I guess it would have to be up to what the Vice Chair believes an incident is.
Or wait for do it to define.
Exactly.
So then if we adopt the amendment, it's conditioned on how a cybersecurity incident is defined by CISO or do it.
In another part of the bill.
Yes, I believe so.
We don't have to recreate words.
It's in this section. So it says the CISO determines the criteria for determining when an incident must be reported.
where is that place?
So it's in subsection 2, subpart, Roman numeral 1. So, page 65 of the reprint, line 26. Actually, we'd be looking at 23 through 27. But doesn't explicitly define, quote, cybersecurity incident, but embedded in determine the criteria for determining when it is to be reported. I think the implication is that there'll be a list of criteria that determines the severity of the attack or the incident or the hack that merits reporting.
I'm going to call on the center in a moment, but I must say, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, during the health department situation, which at one point was called a hack and then became known as an incident and then was called, what was? An event, and what was the blackmail, the ransomware. Ransomware attack, occasionally hack, sometimes incident, sometimes event. So I have to tell you, that concerned me a lot because I considered it a type of hack, and I was told at one of our hearings it was not a hack, which still astounds me. It was an incident. So I'm a little concerned of us being clear on this. So before I get to you, do you want to speak to this, Senator?
Yes, I'm just trying to understand what this would look like in practice. So we had like the COVID-19 dashboard for cases. Does like MDOT report number of speeding violations? Like, give me an analogy for like another agency that's reporting something like this. Do we have anything? I mean, like, 'cause who's, I mean, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out who the end user of this data is. I mean, if it's us, we're obviously interested, but does the average Joe, the press is all over this anyways. I mean, I don't know, I'm honestly looking for another concrete example where we do this for another agency so that I could get my head around what this would look like for cyber.
So, transparency, how many bills have we had in the past 4 years on transparency? So it is my impression that this is broad enough for them to be able to report to the public on a quarterly basis the number of attempts, the numbers that are successful, the numbers that have, the events that have caused damage. I mean, we would look to them to give us a report card on how we have done in protecting the system in a general manner. To the maker of the amendment, I presume you don't want them to disclose how they got in or the number of dollars it cost us. It's just more of a general scorecard, a report card in 3 or 4 different categories. And I think that could be helpful for us to know that there was 10,000 and 2 got through. And those 2 were minor, and they might to disclose a department or a length of time or whatever. Mr. Chairman, I don't know, on that ransomware with the health department, we didn't pay, did we? I think the. Yeah, I think the broadness of this request is broad enough so we don't want to demand what is behind the curtain, but we want to know that the systems are working and people are monitoring, and I just also think it raises awareness and transparency. So I'm very much in favor of the general nature of in which the amendment is written. Thank you.
What does the department feel comfortable and is appropriate given this conversation?
I would absolutely agree with the senator that as long as it is broad and we have the ability to redact information that we feel would threaten a system or the public, I think we would be fine with the amendment.
Vice Chair and then Senator Hester.
Thank you. So I wanted to respond to Senator Hester's question because I think it's fair and smart, actually. I don't mean actually, like, anyway. OLA, the Office of Legislative Audits, there's the sort of Damocles, which is if you screw up, you're going to get a bad audit, and it's going to get in the press, and you're going to look bad, and it's going to be embarrassing. And in the same way, this is yet another thing. If it turns out that there are crazy numbers of hacks or successful hacks in this department, but this one is locked down tight, we're going to have different judgments and different, okay, what are they doing wrong and what are they doing right and all that. So I think that's the accountability that we as legislators, that the public might want to know, because their privacy, their data, their health, their safety and stuff are at risk in any hack.
We'll work down in whatever order items you can take first, Senator Hester, Senator Ellis.
I think the administration, and I would feel more comfortable if it was the Security Operations Center.
That was my question exactly.
And not the Maryland Joint Operations Center. The Security Operations Center would have a better understanding of what to release and what to redact. If you're fine with that, I think we would be much more comfortable with that.
Hear no objection. Give us the actual name again.
It's the Security Operations Center. It's also in the, on page 39, it's also in that group that they have too.
The MD-SOC. It's frequently called the MD-SOC, the Security Operations Center, that has all the state agencies. The MJOC has the local stuff going through it right now. So, so assuming that the Security Operations Center is going to do this, is it still not too onerous to report each quarter? I mean, the audits that the vice chair just offered were every 4 years. I mean, COVID was daily, so it could be anything in the middle. Is quarterly appropriate?
I was thinking yearly would be more reasonable. But again, it's a policy issue.
Be actionable.
My only concern is there may be information in the numbers that if, in the last 3 months, we've been attacked this many times, that people might be able to decipher even just from basic numbers, whether they're getting in, whether they're not, whether they're hitting. It might be, and I'm saying this as a might, I don't know for sure, but it may be something that bad actors could take advantage of.
Senator Ellis on this, please.
That was the exact point I was going to ask you about. So if we put out a report and it tells someone that a group is successful 90% of the time to get into this area, that'll add additional target to that particular area because I'll say it's weak. So thank you for bringing that up.
What's the import of your point? I'm trying to understand if you think it should be more or less frequently.
Well, reporting those kind of numbers, which tells any type of success, coming from a national security background, is exposing our weaknesses, publicizing our weaknesses. So, I mean, we want to reveal certain things, but just those raw numbers like that, I don't know if we can tweak the reporting where we just say the number of attempts and leave it at that. I'm not sure.
I think that would, we would be fine with the attempts, but also, I think quarterly is, you're giving a lot of data for people to use. I think yearly would make more sense, and I think that's something we could actually live with.
So as a point of clarification, I think this may be helpful. So we've done two things. We changed the local government reporting requirement to report to the local emergency managers, and instead of going to the Joint Operations Center, they're going to go to the Maryland Security Operations Center. So that's one change we made that I wanted to make sure. Okay. And then the second part, with these amendments that Senator Kagan is proposing, it's broad language. So maybe this is an intent question, but as the amendments are drafted, every time there is an incident that raises to the standard that the state CISO determines, that has to be reported, just frankly, in that kind of broad manner to the public. So this is the amendments. So these are the amendments. So the framework for reporting is now with the amendments that we just adopted based on the request from the Department of Information Technology. State CISO determines a list of criteria for when a local government has to report. That can be, I don't have the technical lingo, but that can be compromising of data, software, hardware attack, however the language is. State Chief Information Security Officer makes that determination. The local governments have to comply with that. They will submit this information to now it's the local emergency managers and the Maryland Security Operations Center, which is in the Department of Information Technology, if I am not mistaken. And then that Security Operations Center notifies the agencies. What we just said was we established a mechanism for the public to be notified of that because the public wasn't contemplated originally. So the public notification will also be in alignment with those CISO standards because if they weren't in alignment with the CISO standards, there wouldn't be a report anyway.
Let's make this very practical. If there are 6 ransomware attacks and 1 or 2 get through, I mean, when is the public going to know? I mean, the question affected us on the Department of Health.
Right.
I don't know how long it was before the legislature knew about it. Eventually, the public was told, and I think we all want to know, generally, how is that decided, who decides it, either to legislature oversight or to the public. And obviously, that was a successful incident, event, hack, ransomware, whatever the hell you want to call it. There were probably X number that haven't been successful. So I think we'd like to know what is the normal course of operations and what can we expect and whether we should put it in legislative language. Did I have that right?
So I don't want to dodge a question, but each event is going to be a completely different set of circumstances in when the public should know. And that's, so I would hesitate when trying to put that into law and try to say quarterly, because if someone attacks on, January, or excuse me, March, and then they have to report the next day by law, they might be giving up information, that person got through. And we don't want that bad actor to know that yet. So that's why the quarterly makes me very hesitant.
How long was it on the health department?
It was, I knew that the legislature knew.
For example, yes.
I believe it was 3 or 4 days, and I'm not even sure it was that long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the Vice Chair, who's been a champion for transparency for forever, I applaud your efforts. I have to say, this is making me very uncomfortable because I don't understand the safety implications of it. And if somebody who's, I mean, I don't know, I don't feel, having studied this for 3 years and never having looked at the specific question, and not knowing the outcome, and there's so many questions about who does it and who we're reporting to and how frequently, I think I will be voting against this amendment. It's just, I feel like it could possibly put us at risk. And we often talk about not making perfect the enemy of the good, and I don't want to stand up on the floor and defend this amendment. I'm sorry.
Clearly, there's none of us in this room or watching online who wants to imperil Maryland's safety, Maryland's government, Maryland's residents ever in anything. So because there's a lot of data that we don't know, and because we're embarking on something new, I wonder, Mr. Chairman, whether there should be, and I hate this idea, but it's better than nothing, would be to get a report, and then let's take a look at it next year, and then figure out what that should look like, and who should do it, and how often, and how much information it should be, and released to whom, and,
I think that would be a great idea.
okay. That's going to be my suggestion then, as much as I think this is solid.
So then, the language on 65, the bottom of 65, which was more specific to locals, but I think it would apply here, criteria for determining when an incident is reported, the manner in which it is reported, and the time period. Do we think some general framework from CISO will answer those questions?
Yes, I think he'll be able to put that together.
So then if we are asking for a response to that, in us being able to develop a policy for the public, is that what we're talking about here?
Sure, yes.
Uncodified language at the end of the bill? Senator?
It's October 1st. We don't have much time, but he'll be notified ahead now that it's going to be required sometime after October 1st. I don't have a perfect date for that. That's what I bring up.
December 1st?
October, November, 60 days?
Oh, I think we need to give them time. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, but if we want something back for the 23 legislative
That's my point.
session.
yeah, October 1, that gives us time?
Well, that's when it goes, if it goes into effect, they can't produce a report on the day it goes into effect.
I'm sorry?
That section could go into effect.
Okay, that's a good call. Ian.
Okay. Then the uncodified goes into effect June 1, And by October 1, November 1, we have a report on what our policy should be to informing the public.
I like it.
Any objection to that? Done. Yes.
Being down here while you start reading other pieces of the law, and maybe Alexis can help me. I've worked on some other legislation, and when there is an incident or breach or whatever, the Attorney General has to report to the public within a certain amount of time. Do you know what that time frame is? And that probably is what this ransomware fell under, was that requirement.
So for a particular agency or entity?
Anytime there's a breach of data, the Attorney General's office has to report publicly in a certain time frame.
Right. So I have to go
and how
double
that-
check the PII laws.
I do, it's personally identifiable information. When that is leaked or taken, that's when that goes into effect. I think it's within 60 days, but I'm not, I would have to look that up. But we could put that in the report as well, and just so that that's in there. But I believe the vice chair is looking for something a little bit more broad than just PII.
Okay. Before we, okay. Senator Husky, do you have another amendment that you're offering that we didn't have, that we don't already have before us in the bill?
So I worked with staff on the kind of piggyback for Mako, where there could be a state contract and the locals could buy off that contract. It's a procurement issue. I believe it's in 1202.
Okay, let's hold then.
Unless there's another.
It's in 1202, you're right.
Okay. Okay, then I think we have most of the major issues in 1346, but I do want to scoot through this on the smaller amendments that we didn't approve, and I'm going to take 3 or 4 pages at a time, let people read the italicized amendments. They're the Hester amendments, and either ask questions or we'll approve groups of pages like we do with the budget. But I do want to ask one question, which I've referred to a couple of times, and it may or may not have relevance to this bill. As I said, with the health department situation, it was called different things at different points. And I'm very curious to know whether it was DeWitt or the governor's office that defined what it was at different points in time. In other words, early on, it was called ransomware. It became an incident, and then at one point, when it was called a hack, we were told it was not a hack. Now, I don't know how it could be a ransomware and not considered a hack, and I don't want to dwell on the health department, but I want to know if these are clear policy and objective things or they're political things. And I want to make sure going forward, if we have another situation, I don't want what could potentially happen in the future to be defined because of political terms. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but I need to know who called what happened a certain term and who decided that.
I can't answer that. I am not the person, I was not in the room.
Where it
What-
happened?
When it, yeah, but I do know that certain terms are used to actually protect the system if, let's just say, and I don't know the specifics, but certain terms are used so that the bad actors do not know exactly what we know.
Yeah, I didn't want us to go down a rabbit hole, but this is clearly a concern. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Melford, the part I don't get, it feels like you're doing 2 different things. One is we get hacked every 2 seconds, and I did a quick search every 39 seconds or something. And so there's so much stuff. And then, if we release every quarter, it could be traceable by the bad guys. We're talking about, I don't know, tens of thousands. I didn't do the math, but it would be a crap load. It's not like there were 3 and they can figure out which one that one was and which department it was in. So I don't know how you're trying to have it both ways.
Well, so the way that I read the amendment, the incident would be the same manner as an incident that would have to be reported by the locals. So I would think they would have to be at a higher level for it to be determined an incident. That was the way that I was reading the
But we
amendment.
talked about letting do it sort of define. I mean,
Okay.
frankly, you guys come up with the parameters and then tell us what the parameters are, then tell us how often it happens, and then we can tweak it and say, that's not what we expected, that's not what we want. We want more or less or whatever that is.
Okay,
That's why once a year, in my opinion, is just completely foolish. I mean, it would be so much data, no one would be able to do anything with it.
Well, we're going to wait on that, given the language we approved a few minutes ago. Okay, well, I'm not satisfied with the answer, and I don't know if Chip can do it or if it's the governor's decision. But that remains a concern. What happened with the health department, and while the response was very quick, the politics around it were very confusing to a lot of people. Okay, we're going to go back to go through this bill by pages. Yes,
Can I make one clarification point
yes.
to make sure I fully understand the intent of the committee? As I look through how to change the language of the reporting requirement, I just wanted to be clear that on page we were on, so on 65, so I wrote down that we'll have a June 1st effective date, and then by November 1st of 2023, we'll have guidance on the State Chief Information Security Officer. Okay, glad I clarified. So is the intent to delay the portion of reporting to? Okay, so which part are we delaying?
All we're saying is there'll be an uncodified section, and again, I'm not an attorney, that will direct CISO and the Chief Security Officer, CISO, to come up with the framework for how information to the public will be disseminated and what frequency and how incidents are reported. So essentially, what you have on 26 to 29 will be in the uncodified. It'll begin earlier in June 1, to be reported to the legislature, our committee, whatever is appropriate. And that'll be reported to us by November 1, 22. So the rest of the bill might take effect October 1 or whenever the effective date is. We want them to get started on this.
And who are they reporting it to?
So I think the General Assembly and the governor.
Yeah, but I think we want to be very clear, HDO and EHE
Yeah.
receive it. Okay, let's keep rolling here.
I did.
I'm wondering if November 1st, no one's going to see it. December 1st might be smarter, but whatever.
Okay, we're going to go through, we're now looking particularly at the italicized, the Hester amendments, and we want to adopt the ones we haven't already done. Or adopt them or not adopt them, but either include them or not. And we're assuming we are including the House amendments unless we've already changed some of those, which we've done in some of those buckets that we've already addressed. So what I would like you to do, starting on page 9, we'll go page 9 through I'm sorry, okay, page 9, I think the first italics are at the bottom to, Senator, you said page 15. Page 15, line 6. Oh, you're on the bill. I'm on the bottom. Okay, so we'll go from page 9, the bottom. Okay. We're on, oh, so am I. Okay, sorry about that. It's been hard to keep doing reprints because we're continuing to move along. The first italics. Okay, no.
Are we
page
doing the
36.
conceptual ones at the back of the packet?
I think we're starting on page 36 of the packet, page 11 of the bill. And let's go through the middle of 44. So we're starting on 36, where you see italics, to the middle of page 44. There's a break after the interlined language. So take a minute to see if any of the italics you'd like to discuss or object to.
And if I can make a point on this language, we did adopt language on lines 26 through 30 that would have stricken the coordination of resources and efforts to implement cyber best practices, et cetera, for locals.
Yep.
We did remove that piece.
We
So,
reviewed 26, and we took out those 3 or 4 or 5 words.
so we actually took out the full 26 through line 30, which may be worth reconsidering because that is still, that task is still under the purview of Office of Security Management. So we said that the office is no longer responsible for coordinating resources and efforts to implement best practices and improve overall cybersecurity for local governments. Took that language out. However, that language is still included under enabling language for what the Director of Local Cybersecurity will do, but that may be worth considering since they are still doing that work. We'll
come back to that if necessary. Okay, so we've taken care of the bottom of 36. So let's look at any italics 37 through the middle of 44. There may not be any.
On page 37, lines 19 through 24, just a note that we made that language a little stronger upon request from the administration. So instead of language saying determine whether an information system should be allowed to continue, the new language would say they can direct or take action to mitigate the threat to that system.
Yep, we already made that decision. Thank you. Just make a point, I'll come back to you. Okay, 37 to 44, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at pages 39 and 40, top of 40, and I'm wondering whether there's a lot of information here that could be a good fit for this whole report concept. And on page 40, it says a report submitted under this subsection may not contain information that reveals cybersecurity vulnerabilities and risks in the state. So that's really strong language that I like. And it just seems like, and we've already got on page 39, line 7, on or before December 31st each year, the office is already reporting to the governor and but B&T, our committee, appropriations, HGO, and others. It seems like this would be a good place if they're already doing a report.
So this report mainly is focused on state government. So
Yeah.
if we're talking about local attacks, that wouldn't fit under it.
I think we want information on all of it. I mean, state attacks are what the chair keeps talking about, which is the incident at Health.
Yeah,
How do you want to do that?
I think we should go with what we decided on earlier. I think this is on their activities. Okay, we're up to page 44. Line 22. Any italics that we haven't discussed, we assume are adopted. Now let's look at line 23 on 44, and let's get to and let's take it to find a good break point here.
There may be some points of contention worth noting between some of the conceptual amendments received from the administration on page 41. Don't know the will of the body to entertain those or not.
I'm not sure what we're referring to, that
Oh,
earlier
so,
list
sure.
from a
I
week
didn't want
ago?
to go in depth, if that wasn't the intent. But on page 41, after line 16, judiciary and executive representatives are added to the Maryland Cybersecurity Coordinating Council as non-voting members. There's an objection from the administration on including those parties. So it's a member from the Senate, member from the House, and a representative from the judiciary.
Who objects?
The administration.
Yeah, thank you. I think having a member of the legislative body, anybody object to that?
And the HA.
Sorry?
Said the administration objects to the Attorney General, or no?
Oh, no, so objects to the membership of the Senate
Yeah.
representative and the House representative, and the judiciary representative.
Okay. Does anybody want to remove section C? Included, remains in the bill. Okay, let's look from 44 and let's go up to, I don't know, bottom of, well, let's take it up to middle of 61. There's not a whole lot of new language there. Middle of 44 to the middle of 61. And if you see some italicized language you'd like to discuss or remove, we'll take that up. We've addressed page 45. We've already agreed to some amendments on 46 between lines 20 and 29, I believe. To 49, let's go to 49, the middle of the page, so we're all clear on what the bill includes. Senator Hester, this puts it, I don't know if this was your amendment or the House amendment on line 17.
I'm not sure either. But however, I think that changing it, if we adopt the policy that we're not making a major shift in procurement, then putting the language back the way that it was would be the right thing to do, which I believe this amendment does. A unit of state government may not purchase, lease, or rent information technology unless consistent with the master plan and the cybersecurity strategy. Something like that.
And we would want to do a technical amendment because, and the cybersecurity strategy was scratched off, and I don't think that's the intent. Then we wanted to say, as Senator Hester mentioned, consistent with the IT master plan, the cyber strategy.
There that we're trying to clarify that there is a IT master plan and there is a cybersecurity strategy within that.
Okay, if that's our reading of 17 through 19, any objection to that language? Seeing none. On 50 or 51, or 52, or 53, or 54, 55, 56 or 57, 58 or 59. That takes us up to the middle of 61.
59. Uh, 59. Last time we talked, lines 18 through 21, there was a conversation of, do we want to add this back? Ms.
Okay.
Foxworth, is that something you can remind us what we were thinking about on that?
So we,
This is middle of page 59, lines 18 to 21.
Yeah.
right, so we removed it. I haven't heard anything about bringing it back in. I'm reading through it one more time. Right, so this was DGS's request to remove any touch points that DeWitt may have on local procurement.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that's why that was removed.
Thank you.
but-
That's out. Okay, we're on middle of 61 and almost through the bill. Take a minute. So the bottom half of 61, take a moment to look at. We touched on this the other day in terms of the assessment, independent Vice Chair.
Third party, in the bottom 75%, be evaluated by a third party. We had talked yesterday about OLA, the Office of Legislative Audit, which I thought was a good idea. I think a lot of us thought that was a good idea. Greg Hook says he does not have the capacity. Vicky Gruber was, I mean, there were emails sort of going back and forth. I think we need to check to see whether there are the resources in staff, time, and expertise before we come up with that and make it clearer who that third party should be. When Mr. Hook's initial response was that if it was going to be an auditor, that it might be more appropriate for it to be an independent vendor and not part of the government, even as an independent agency. But I don't want to speak for OLA, but I just want to share what I quasi-learned in brief emails yesterday and today.
So I was copying on some of those emails, and my impression was that OLA didn't want to do the certification. And what I thought we were talking about was who they were reporting the certification to. So it's the difference between doing the report and receiving the report. So we do need to clarify.
It says evaluated by a third party. That's the part that I was flagging, 2 sub I. And then certify is 2 sub Roman 2.
But I thought the question also asked was whether the Senate and the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate wanted to receive these reports or not.
Yeah, but this was This section is on judicial branch and the legislative branch only. They define IT unit as those two branches. So from E2 down, it's talking about those two units solely, is my understanding.
That's correct. And I will say I received, this wasn't included in the conceptual amendments, but I have received information from the judiciary on this language being objectionable to them.
Senator Hester?
To be clear, the judiciary objects to certifying minimum standard compliance to themselves. Whoa.
Does anybody want to change or remove section 2, parens 2?
I think we need clarity. I think we need some specificity because it's not it right now.
What's not specific?
A third party. 2 sub 1. Don't you think we ought to have some clarity?
Well, a third party means,
It could be Ian. Ian's a third party. He's going to be the one who's going to evaluate everything.
well, it's got to be someone with the expertise. I don't know if,
Ian has total expertise.
yeah, within limits. Yeah, I mean. Yeah,
So is there, I mean, is there not common legislative language that says about an independent party? Like who is not, somebody with expertise who is not yourself that could do it, any kind of certification? I mean, to Senator Ellis's point, like 2 weeks ago, I mean, I think you were saying that financial auditors are moving into this space. Like, I think you can hire somebody to do this. We just can't name that specific person in the bill. But what would be a generic, unbiased, independent party in legalese?
Do some research and come up with something. But I just think a third party is more vague than I think is appropriate.
I think the question is that a legal term of art?
So it's not. It's not. We can make qualifications on what the standards are for the certification entity, but third party in itself is a term that we would have to define. It doesn't have a legal meaning outside of someone unaffiliated with that particular unit, which is just the plain meaning of it.
An external assessment, the same thing?
Right, it would have to be conducted by someone outside of the unit.
So Mr. Hook said independent auditors would not apply to OLA, but it is commonly accepted to mean and used to describe CPA firms. So maybe that's the word that we might be looking for.
Yeah,
But then that's actually,
This isn't all about CPAs.
I'm
This
just
is-
saying, I'm just reading what I
This is
got.
about cybersecurity.
I understand.
Really quick.
Senator?
Yeah, it's so, I mean, I explore this issue we brought up with Senator Hester just mentioned, and so there are audits, independent audits, and part of that independent audit is now certification for systems to be in compliance through these auditing firms, and they have the capability. One of the specialties they have now is called Certified Information System Auditors, CISAs. So there are thousands of them around. They're part of ongoing required audits for state, local, county, municipal governments, except if it's a very small municipality, they don't have to do an annual audit, just once every 4 years. So we discussed that with Office of Legislative Audit and Mr. Hook.
Okay, well, under 2.1, it's a third party. It's been suggested we put independent auditor. I also don't know whether under D1, under external assessment, whether that needs a clarifier. I don't want to go down too far down the rabbit hole of defining each term we use. So what's the will of the body?
I think Ms. Foxworth should come back with something.
Well,
So
we're going
I
to vote on
think-
the bill today.
I get it.
Just give us 5 minutes.
So my suggestion would be either independent auditors or independent cybersecurity auditors.
No, that's not bad.
Okay, anybody object to independent cybersecurity auditor? No objection, that goes in. Senator Hester?
I just would defer to this, the senator with CPA expertise, am I right? I don't think they're actually called independent cybersecurity auditors.
No, I mean. Yeah, thank you for that. No, they're not, there's no one organization by that term. If you want to be specific, you could say
Okay.
CISA, Certified Information System Auditors, but they're part of the audit experience
Okay.
that's required
An
by
auditor
law.
with cybersecurity experience?
Yes, because no auditor, no accounting firm, they're licensed by the state, will put unqualified person to evaluate or audit or certify anything, so,
Financial firm.
That's why, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but again, these aren't necessarily going through a financial CPA firm. I mean, there are auditing bodies, I believe. I mean, OLA does audits. They're
Right.
not a financial firm.
But they're full of CPAs. If you look at the qualifications for almost everyone in the professional staff with Office of Legislative Audit, they're all CPAs. So people generally think CPA, well, financial or taxes, but it goes deeper into the technical area also. And this is also part of the audits that they do on a recurrent basis, which is cybersecurity, information systems, reporting systems, really being in compliance with state laws, federal laws, and county laws.
Okay. Independent auditor with cybersecurity experience. Any objection?
I don't love the word experience. Expertise, certification, something that's a little more than like I was a summer intern 3 years ago. Expertise,
If you want to offer
expertise.
expertise, then is, okay. Okay, independent auditor with cybersecurity expertise. Conference committee, this will probably get changed 3 more times. Okay, let's keep going, ladies and gentlemen. Let's, page 64, we're almost at the finish line. Did we leave that unchanged, or did we amend that? I mean, this is implied in the study we're asking for, so I would suggest we leave it, and when they come back to us in December 1 or November 1, they'll have more clarity.
You want 64?
Thanks. Chair.
Vice Chair? Oh.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Was there a question on page 64?
No.
Okay.
That takes us to the top of, we've added a language at the top of 66. And we've already adopted 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the rest of the language was stricken. So we have 1346 as amended before us. I'd like to get it over because there'll be a conference committee or informal conversation with the House. I do not know where they are on this bill or parts of this bill. So there's a motion to adopt the bill as amended from Senator Hester. It's been seconded by the Vice Chair. Discussion on 1346 as amended. there'll be a reprint. And obviously, we've had to do this in fits and starts, but it's been very difficult, and there are a lot of moving pieces. Further discussion on 1346 as amended? If not, let's go to a roll call.
Senator Kagan? Aye. Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza? Pass. Senator Washington? Senator Riley? Yes. Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson?
On the record. Lean in.
That perhaps
Lean into it.
lean on me, huh? I'm a little concerned about the complexity of this project. This is a major undertaking, and we're setting some very serious policy changes here. And I honestly have to just tell you, I'm not feeling good about it. But I'm going to vote for it, but I just want that to be a part of the record for this senator.
Senator Simonaire?
In explaining, I don't have a clue what this bill is in the amended format, so I'm going to wait till I get to the floor to see the reprint, and then I'll decide. So I'm going to, what's the term, abstain.
Abstain. Senator Simonaire abstains. Senator Carozza? Senator Carozza abstains, and Senator Penske?
I'm voting yes. Look, a lot of this is very complicated, and it's new, and there's a little trust me here, and a lot of people have looked at it, and I assume there'll be a cleanup bill next year. It is in a much more modest posture than it was when it came in, extremely more modest. We move by inches or yards, whatever, not by miles. So I think this is a starting point. Like I said, we have another bridge to cross with the House, so there'll probably be some more changes. So I'm voting yes.
Okay, 7-1-2-1.
Okay, 7 in favor, 1 against, 2 abstain, and 1 absent. Boy, that's a lot of numbers. 7-1-2-1. Okay, and we will have the same vote for the Senate cross-file, which is 812. So we will move both bills, 1346 and 812, with the same vote. Okay, those two are done. Senator,
For co-sponsors on the Senate bill,
okay.
does council have those?
Give me 1 second, please.
I probably know them.
All right, so it's for 6. So the motion would be to add Senators Hershey, Rosapep, Jennings, Jackson, Lee, and Watson as co-sponsors to the state bill.
Kagan, Ellis, Washington.
Thank you.
They are added. Okay, let's see if we can do 1202 quickly. Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. I know there are some amendments on 1202. We adopted one yesterday. I know we're throwing a lot at you, Ms. Foxworth.
It's okay, just,
Could you walk us through any amendments to 1202,
sure.
other than proffered by Senator Hester?
Okay, so that makes it a little easier. So outside of the ones that we've already gone through, Outside of the ones that we've already gone through that have been proffered by Senator Hester, there is one in your voting packet that also was sponsored by Senator Hester. But it's on a separate issue.
In list 50,
Yes.
okay, page 3.
So this is a procurement question for local procurement. I'm gonna find the page in the reprint.
Ladies and gentlemen, look on page 3. It's allowing them to buy mass purchases, but does not require it. Page 3 of the freestanding,
Health Department is doing? Or DGS? Here. Okay, let's just make sure that's.
okay. We need to be clear in the section of the bill that the department is DGS.
All right, so if the department is DGS, we would have to change it to another section of the code, which is fine.
That's fine. Any objection to allowing group purchasing?
So that's a good question. So the amendment talks about Department of IT. I think there's been this extensive question of procurement, who it applies to, who's doing it, who's doing the final approval. So as drafted with Department of Information Technology,
Right. But we have retained purchasing power in DGS, and we have not moved it to do it. So this has to acknowledge that retention of purchasing in DGS.
so it would more than likely have to stay with the department because the distinctions between procurement statewide for cybersecurity and procurement for local cybersecurity are a little different in that the latter with the locals mainly do not go through DGS. But I may have to consult with DGS for that procurement question because procurement has been extremely nuanced, and since that's no longer outside of our purview, I may need to get a second opinion. But this was crafted so that the Department of Information Technology, that is, could assist the local entities. But it's not, the intent is not to change who the locals go through to get final approval for those projects and proposals and supplies.
They may go through DGS to get better rates on purchasing what they choose, and they're not required to. I think I don't think there's any legal restriction.
So this is mentioning the Department of Information Technology.
Where it says A, the department.
Yeah, we've changed that to, she's going to put it in a different section because it's going to refer to DGS and not do it. Senator Hester, you had your light on a minute ago.
I was just, the intent was not to change procurement, but just to establish a statewide contract which locals could piggyback off of. And so I had assumed it would be in DGS.
And we can move it to state finance and procurement,
Okay.
or to that section of it, so that DGS is the operative department.
Any objection to this language falling under DGS? It'll be incorporated in a new section, make it explicit, it does not do it, and it is a voluntary offering, it is not required. Any objection? Seeing none, adopted. Other amendments in 1202? Well, we adopted that yesterday. The one of the accountability, on page 2, we adopted yesterday, I believe. Okay. Other amendments, new amendments on 1202. Then we didn't go through all of the small, Senator.
Want to make sure that the report that we're doing in 1346 is replicated for 1202 with the same language and the same deadlines.
Absolutely. Everything
you.
that we adopted,
Yep.
1346 will be cross-referenced.
Not
in
assuming.
1202.
Thank you.
Okay, just so we're very clear and we're not missing anything, if you would turn in your old packet, the reprint, number 42, starting on page 9, I just want to make sure that we're not missing anything. There's some other amendments that have been proffered by the center from Howard and Carroll County. So let's start on page 9. We're looking particularly at the italics, which are the proposed amendments she has offered in this version. So let's look from page 9 up to the bottom of 17. Just mark it, we'll come back. You should see we have used the words coordination or coordinating multiple times.
And some of the conceptual amendments in the back are not necessarily adopted within these. I don't know which warrant conversation, but I will leave that in your hands.
Super fast, and I know that Ms. Foxworth has just a million things. I just want to make sure, page 13, line 20, or 19 and 20, in 1346, we took out "and legislative content," so again, I just want to make sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So the italic language are Senator Hester's amendments to HB 1202. And Senator Hester, are these the amendments you worked through with MACO and then were added after that? I'm just trying to.
They're her amendments, so I'm not sure we have to define who gave.
I just didn't know if some of that had been coordinated with MACO.
Really good partner, and one of the key amendments in here was to remove the mandatory assessments. So they're still certifying to minimum standards, I believe, but they are not doing the mandatory assessments. I haven't quite seen that yet where it is, but that was a big one. And some of the reporting requirements, I believe, were.
Okay, seeing no objection, anything to the 1419 was adopted. And let's finish it from 19 through 25, the last part of the bill. Bottom of 19 says it cannot reveal any kind of vulnerabilities. '20 adds or cybersecurity projects. 21 creates a new Information Sharing and Analysis Center. The certification is on page 23. And the two uncodified sections on page 25. One is financing, budget amendment, which is included money, and then section 6 makes it emergency.
And this is where the transitional language for the local governments will go as well.
Correct. Senator?
Mr. Chairman, we talked about the other bill having an effective date of October 1st. Why is this emergency?
Great question.
Thank you.
Senator Hester, if you respond to a good senator.
Yes, because in particular, the ISAC is actually, we're codifying an existing ISAC. The Information Sharing and Analysis Center on your reprint page 21 currently exists. This would be including the local units of government, giving them the option to opt in. In order to opt in, they would need something like an interchange, an integrator. They would need an integrator. And the money for that could come from the dedicated purpose account. So in order to enable that to happen as quickly as possible, that is why it's emergency legislation.
Okay. Any of the changes on 19 to 25? Okay. Yes.
I don't know if it was in the section we just went through, or if it is in here yet or needs to be added, but Mako wanted to make sure that these bills are contingent on the passage of HB 1205, since that's where the fund is, the local cyber support fund. Don't we need to make that clear in the bill?
Well, how much of the money is in the budget?
We've already passed it. It's in the supplemental. The governor has put in $200 million into the dedicated purpose account. And my belief is that the uncodified language, which makes this an eligible, the contents of this bill, an eligible use of the dedicated purpose account, connects those two together.
So the question becomes, do we need to make this contingent on the third bill up in B and T or not? Senator?
I would say no.
Do you want to press the motion, Senator?
That was a Mako request.
No.
Right.
Do you want to press it?
Can I just ask a technical question for council? So, I know this is really important to Mako, and so there's a grant fund in the bill in B&T. And so I guess I'm not clear whether the money has to go into the grant fund and then from the dedicated purpose account into the grant fund and then to the counties, or if it could flow directly. But I'm hoping all three bills pass.
So we understand it's a request. Do you want to press? It's a yes or no.
So by making, if we had language that basically said these arrangements with the locals would go forward contingent upon passage of HB 1205?
And the senator from Howard Carroll said that there's $200 million in the budget that's already passed, which links it. And we don't know, I assume 1205 will probably pass, but there's no guarantee. You don't know their conversation with the House. So she was suggesting that the budget that we have approved and the link in this bill is enough.
Okay, I'll withdraw.
it or not? Well, I think we're past. Senator Hester?
Just before we move on, there's unfortunately, a great deal of overlap between this bill and the 1346. And I just wanted to make sure that, council, if we made a change to something that's repetitive in 1202, but we changed it first in 1346, will you carry those changes over
Yes.
into this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have 1202 as amended, the amendment we adopted yesterday, the amendments we adopted today. Discussion on 1202 as well as SB 754. We will move both bills with the same vote.
I've been asked by Mako to push the amendment to make it contingent, so it is tied to the local cyber support fund.
Is there a second? Okay, roll call.
Senator Kagan? No. Senator Kagan, no. Senator Hester? No. Senator Hester, no. Senator Ellis? No. Senator Ellis, no. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Riley? I'm sorry, Senator Washington? No. Senator Washington, no. Senator Riley? No. Senator Riley, no. Senator Patterson? Senator Patterson, no. Senator Simonaire?
Yes.
Senator Simonaire, yes. And Senator Penske?
No.
Senator Penske, no. 8-2, I'm sorry, 2-8, 0-1.
Okay. You have an amendment?
Question.
Sure.
So I'm trying to track all the different versions here. In 1202, it appears that page 12 through 17 is replicated in the bill we just passed. Is that correct? It's the whole state finance and procurement.
Yeah, it's the first portion, I think the first 10 pages of 1202, the first 10 or so pages of 1202 are replicated in 1346. It's that technical language, renumbering the state finance and procurement article.
Okay, and just curious why we're duplicating and,
So from a drafting perspective, the technical changes that we make, codification of the executive order, which is also in this bill, is just a common practice in the event one of the bills fails. You want to have the one that does pass do all of the mirroring actions that the latter would have done.
Other questions, debate? Okay, it's 1202 and SB 754, the local version of the two cyber bills. Roll call, please.
Senator Kagan? Aye. Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Ellis, bless you. Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza? Abstain. Senator Carozza abstains. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? Yes. Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson? Yes. Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire? Senator Simonaire abstains. And Senator Penske? Yes. Senator Penske, yes. 7-1-2-1.
7 in favor, 1 against, 2 abstain, and 1 absent. Yes.
get a reprint before it gets to the floor? Otherwise, we'll just see it on second reader for the first time.
I don't know what the process is.
Depends
for-
on when we want to report it to the floor. We'll need a couple of days to get everything together, that's for
Well,
sure.
We're on a short leash here. Today's Tuesday. I guess we'll report it Thursday morning, and we'll try to get the new interline copy
And I
by
can,
no later than tomorrow afternoon. I hate, this is crunch time.
I will do my best to accommodate it by
Okay,
tomorrow
I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, people can only work as much because they have to prepare other reports for floor reports as well. So there's a lot going on but I do want to get it done and passed over to the, back to the House. Well, that's, maybe we'll do, if we can do a second reader in the morning, third in the afternoon, in the evening. And that'll give us Friday, Saturday, and Monday to work out any changes. Okay, that is done. We have about 20-some bills to vote on. We do not have hearings tomorrow. So it is a voting afternoon. If people want to take 30 minutes to knock out a few, or just cut here, or spend longer, I'm open to the will of the committee.
Let's do it. Let's do it. 30 minutes is good.
Okay.
Before we start, 2 seconds. I just want to let you know that I've tested, I'm fine. I just have the Pinsky plague, I think, the coughing thing. And that's why I've been wearing masks and all that, but I'm good and I'm not sharing too many diseases.
Me up. You know, I got the cosmetologist earlier, the Pinsky cosmetology, and now I'm getting the bug. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, let's start from where we left off, HB 275. List 43, thank you for that.
Oh, that's the one that we left off?
Yeah. 43. We- Bill 275.
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you want to do concurrences?
Isn't that a concurrence? Is 275 concurrence?
Concurrences.
No, concurrences are Senate bills that have been amended in the House. They won't be on a list.
This side, guys, 43, you all have?
Is it the same exact thing as yesterday?
I'm guessing it is.
Yes.
Yes. We can get 6 votes on this, right? It's weakening the bill. We adopting the amendment?
PFAS?
Yeah.
Senate Bill 275, PFAS.
Okay, we have a concurrence, let's do that first. Ms. Goodman.
Senate Bill 299, Education, Public and Non-Public Schools Seizure Action Plan, Brinley's Act. In general, if you recall, SB 299 establishes training requirements for school personnel on certain seizure recognition and response methods. The parent or guardian of a student diagnosed with a seizure disorder must collaborate with school personnel to create a seizure action plan and provide medication and authorization as specified in the bill. Non-public schools may authorize requiring training of certain personnel. The House amendments clarify which school personnel are authorized to administer certain medication and who may receive certain training, and it makes one technical correction. Recommend you concur.
Any objection on the motion to concur? The sponsor was fine with the amendments as well. Any objection to the concurrence? Seeing none, we do concur. We have a second from B&T as well.
Okay. So yesterday, we got this a little fuddled. So in B&T, there's House Bill 993, which is Child Care Capital Support Revolving Loan Fund established. They also have the Senate cross-file SB 919, which they did not move. So they are moving them concurrently, and they are amending them to match. So what this does, this bill establishes a Child Care Capital Support Revolving Loan Fund for the purpose of providing no-interest loans for capital expenses to child care providers who participate in the Child Care Scholarship Program. The fund is a special non-lapsing fund administered by the Department of Commerce with support from the State Department of Education. For fiscal '23, the governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation to the fund of $15 million. Fiscal '24, the governor must appropriate 10, and in fiscal '25, the governor must appropriate 5 million. Budget and tax added some amendments that would keep the 2023 funding and strike the 2024 and 2025 funding. So there was $15 million included in the fiscal 2023 budget, and B&T voted this bill favorable with amendments unanimously.
Just so I understand the process, when we draft bills, they usually say you can't mandate something in the current budget. But this is, how's that work?
So it was already in the budget, and then what this bill does is tells them how to use that money that's in the budget. It's not new money, no.
Objection to adopting or concurring the budget and tax action on the bill? Seeing none, completed in that fashion. Ms. Foxworth, you know, we had that transparency bill on the floor today, which we hadn't voted on. Should we do that now, or why don't you get us up to date on that?
Right, so Senate Bill 269 was the bill that added several regional bodies to the requirements and the scope of the Open Meetings Act. So there was Maryland Food Authority, there were Marbidco, those entities were placed under the Open Meetings Act, and then they were subject to higher standards for posting meetings online, maintaining those meetings online, posting meeting minutes, et cetera. So as it returns to us from the House, there have been several technical changes that have been made, which aren't of significant import. There was an exemption that we placed on the bill that we sent over to the House that exempted certain educational tours and certain site visits. So the amendments from the House just make that exemption apply to every entity covered under the public body that has an educational tour or a site visit. It exempts those particular events from the definition of a public body. And then there is specific intent language that says that these enhanced requirements should not be interpreted to limit the Public Information Act, and it should not be interpreted to prevent one of these public bodies from modifying their agenda.
So the motion is to concur?
Concur.
Okay.
The Attorney General came in at the 11th hour and asked for an amendment.
They don't change the core
No.
of the bill. Is any objection to adopting concurrence on 269? Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Any objection? Seeing none, we concur.
I have two more.
Okay.
So Senate Bill 19 is the bill that expands the scope of pharmacy to include maintenance injectable medications being applied for sexually transmitted infections. So the House added technical language that would have created a new category of maintenance injectable medication instead of placing treatment of sexually transmitted infections under the pre-existing definition of a maintenance injectable under the code. Created a new one, and that was from consultation with an entity. And so the additional changes to the insurance provisions are technical because they now apply to the new definition of maintenance injectable medication for the treatment of sexually transmitted infections. So we're going based off of that longer phrase instead of applying treatment for sexually transmitted infections under the pre-existing definition of code. We're making a new one. It's technical, everything else is the same. They wanted to carve out and create a new definition.
Is this the cross-file of Senator Lamb's bill?
It is Senator Lamb's bill.
We also have the House bill, correct?
We do.
Senator Lewis, Senator Delegate Young, Lewis Young's bill?
Yes, we do.
And will that be in the same form? Or is
It
that-
will be, it should be.
Okay. So these are basically technical and corrective
Right,
on the injectables.
right.
Okay, the motion should be to concur, I assume?
Yes.
Or
I would
adopt the amendments.
recommend a concurrence to move to concur in the amendments, yeah.
Okay, the motion is to concur on the amendments to the Senate bill. Any objection? Seeing none, we concur. We should, I assume, do we need to amend the House bill to look like it, or it already does?
It's already done.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll also be moving the House bill by the same vote. Any objection? There are cross files. Seeing none, that will move as well. You have one more? Or you're done?
I have one more. So Senate Bill 440, which was the commission to study the healthcare workforce crisis in Maryland. So as it returns to us from the House, there have been several changes to the composition of the commission. Changes to the scope of the focus in a minor way. So I'll run through the composition of the board changes, but the portion of the bill that focused on identifying military pathways into the healthcare workforce are now required, the recommendations made are required to be in alignment with the report that was based off of legislation from 2010. It's not necessarily changing the directives, but it places some guardrails on how the recommendations will be made. Also requires a focus on examining barriers that confront foreign-born practitioners within the healthcare workforce. And then it changes the composition thusly. It removes the executive directors of the Board of Professional Counselors and Therapists. It adds the Board of Dental Examiners, and it adds one executive director of a health occupations board that is not already represented on the commission. The boards that are, or the executive directors that are currently placed on the commission are the executive director from the boards of nursing, pharmacy, physicians, and as amended in the House, the Board of Dental Examiners. So then there's space for one other executive director of a health occupations board that is not on that list. Also adds the liaison to boards and commissions from the Department of Health, and it adds the executive director of the Longitudinal Data System Center. It is, yep, Senator Vital, yep.
On a time on about 6 weeks ago about the health shortage, Senator Bidle's bill, I believe. We made some changes to the makeup of the panel that would be looking at the shortages. I know Senator Washington had a number of amendments, Senator Ellis had one. They're making some, I don't know, they're making some changes. I won't say whether minor or modest. The question is, do we want to accept them, reject them, go to conference?
Concur.
Motion is to concur. Is there a second? Discussion.
Minor changes.
Yeah.
They're rearranging the deck chairs on the.
Yeah, could you run them by again, please?
So, as amended, the portions, just on the composition piece, so, give the, say, Senate Bill 440. Mhm. Did you want to run through the members, or are you just pulling up the bill? So it adds two other boards, add two other members in addition to the ones that we did. That's one executive director from a health occupations board that's not already there. Department of the Health, the Department of Health's liaison to boards and commissions, actually there are three that are changed. And then the executive director of the Longitudinal Data System Center. And it takes the professional counselors member off. Fine with it. Yeah.
Senator Riley moved, Senator Washington seconded a concurrence. Discussion? Seeing none, who objects to the concurrence? Okay, we concur. Okay, you're done your list, correct?
I am done with my list.
And we're done your list. Do any concurrences? Okay, then back to the list. Let's try, we'll take 10 or 15 more minutes. Please.
We have some of my constituents here who have been waiting 4 hours. I don't know if I can jump the line, but it's the Senate Bill 1006, hemp farming. On voting list 49. 49. I didn't think it was a controversial bill. Feldman and Gazone sponsors. Senate Bill 1006, first one. Don't ask for much, Mr. Chairman, but it's for these beautiful women in the front row. That has nothing to do with it, though. That has nothing to do with it.
These smart, talented, and effective.
Yes, yes, yes. And business owners, entrepreneurs.
And business owners.
We'll go to 1006.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So Senate Bill 1006, Hemp Farming Program, Use of Hemp and Hemp Products and Consumable Products. This bill alters the definition of hemp and hemp product under the Hemp Farming Program and authorizes a person that produces hemp or a hemp product in accordance with the program to include the hemp or hemp product in consumable products for sale. Before offering for sale a consumable product that includes hemp or a hemp product, the person must ensure that the hemp or hemp product is tested by an independent testing laboratory to ensure that 1, the hemp or hemp product meets applicable safety standards, and 2, the total tetrahydrocannabinol or THC concentration of the hemp does not exceed 1% on a dry weight basis. If the hemp has a THC concentration that exceeds 1%, the person may include the hemp product in consumable products for sale if the hemp product is diluted to an allowable concentration by an independent testing laboratory. Finally, the bill prohibits a person from knowingly producing a hemp product that exceeds a THC concentration of 1% on a dry weight basis. There are amendments in your voting packet. Again, we're on list 49 now. The amendments they start right on page 3, and there's a reprint starting on page 4. The amendments strike language excluding synthetically manufactured cannabinoids from the definition of hemp and replaces references to THC to be delta-9 THC. Finally, it specifies that delta-9 THC concentration must be confirmed by an independent testing lab rather than actually mixed by the testing lab.
Mr. Chair. The testimony that we heard as a committee was that under the current testing protocol, if they're taking samples off of the live plants, it exceeds the percentage. The whole crop has to be destroyed. This bill says that if in fact the percentage is too high, it can be processed in a manner to bring the percentage down to the appropriate level, then tested and certified for sale. So this is a way to save crops and to make their process more efficient while doing testing on a regular basis.
I do want to flag some things.
Sure.
Because the Department of Health has a letter of testimony in the bill file, a letter of information. It's not one way or the other. First of all, I've asked about this question, this idea of remediating, because the bill does not actually change the maximum level that a hemp plant THC concentration, which is 0.3%. It is also setting a standard for the CBD oil at 1%, which is currently higher than is allowed under the state and, well, in federal regulations. It's kind of a gray area at best right now. So it's a little bit, the bill does both a little bit more and a little bit less than I think was sort of discussed at the bill hearing, unless somebody wants to kind of set me right on that, but.
Yeah, look, committee counsel approach me, and just for transparency's sake, there are federal laws on CBD. Just are on marijuana. And our state has legalized, in the process of legalizing recreational, medicinal, in the face of federal law that prohibits it. So we all understand that. Some of this bill will exceed what the federal government says. So this will be in contradistinction to the federal law, not that we haven't crossed that barrier on marijuana already. But April approached me and I said, we need to put that out there. And it's fine. And the federal government, as I understand it, did it for a reason. And putting aside cannabis and marijuana, they didn't want people to be selling CBD that exceeded the numbers, because then all of a sudden it becomes an effective drug opposed to how it's used in their oils and everything else. And they didn't want to open the door to people to abuse it. So that's why there are federal limits. All that being said, we're in the process of allowing recreational marijuana, so the worry about going over a little bit over CBD is probably less of an issue now, because if people want to get high or use it for whatever medicinal or recreational purposes, they can just buy cannabis. But, so committee counsel said we should put that on the table. It's not to dissuade you, because I've supported the marijuana legalization. So I'm not objecting to this, but we just want those of you who take a pure view of the federal law to acknowledge that. Is that?
And Mr. Chair, well recognized, these percentages are extremely low in the industry, so I'm very comfortable moving this forward. Ask for a roll call.
Okay.
We need to vote on the amendments first, but.
Okay, there's a gazone amendment. Anybody object to the gazone amendment? Seeing none. Do we have the House bill also? No. Okay. So the motion is favorable on the bill as amended. Roll call.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Raleigh? Yes. Senator Raleigh, yes. Senator Patterson? Yes. Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire? Senator Simonaire, yes. And Senator Penske?
Yes. Oh, no.
And Senator Penske, yes. 10-0-1.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Sure.
Thank you for joining us today. Okay. Let's knock out one or two or three more bills and then we'll stop. We're on 275, back on list 43. This passed.
Thank you.
Okay.
275.
House Bill 275, Environment, PFAS Chemicals, Prohibitions and Requirements, the George Walter Taylor Act. This bill establishes and expands several prohibitions and requirements that relate to the manufacture, sale, and distribution for sale or use in the state of specified products that contain intentionally added PFAS chemicals. The only substantive difference between this bill and its cross-file, which was Senate Bill 273, appears on page 23 of your voting packet. The House narrowed the provisions related to food packages to apply only to packages composed in substantial part of paper, paperboard, or other materials originally derived from plant fibers. So it would say, it would exclude packages that weren't paperboard products. So it would exclude things that were solely plastic, for example. And my understanding is so what it would apply to is there are sometimes PFAS chemicals used as a coating for like fast food carryout boxes and things to keep them from absorbing oils. Those already would have been covered under the bill that the Senate passed, but this would exclusively cover those and would not cover other plastics and plastic food packaging.
Senator, I believe this was an industry amendment that was adopted by the committee. So I don't think it made it stronger. I think it may have weakened it a little bit, for your knowledge.
You're not moving your amendment.
Mr. Chair, we passed it 45-0 under the Senate version. If this makes it weaker, I'm sure the vote will stand.
That would be my sense.
So,
Pick up those last one or two people who abstained.
And you're not moving your amendment, correct?
Strip it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, and then, so the only other amendment to draw your attention to is page 29. Conceptual amendments being offered by the Department of the Environment, or requested by the Department of the Environment. Both the Senate and the House version included a $500,000 mandatory appropriation to purchase, for the department to purchase PFAS chemical containing firefighting foam from local fire departments. The department would prefer for that money to go towards the disposal of the firefighting foam. Otherwise, it's an unfunded mandate on them. So to turn it into a take-back program rather than a buy-back program.
The question comes, will the fire departments give it back then if they're not making money and just use it, or are they prohibited?
They are prohibited
So they're
from
just
using
stuck with it?
Yes.
So they probably would take it back then? Gotcha.
Did the House adopt this?
I believe they're going to.
Okay, any objection to the Department of the Environment amendment? We think the House is also going to adopt it as well, and, you know, if the Secretary says adopt it, you know I'm with him. So, Senator Carozza.
So we're passing HB 275 with these two amendments, and then, I mean, if those two amendments are adopted, then are we then in a conference with the?
No, so the first thing that I mentioned was that was an amendment that was already made in the House, so we don't have to amend that.
So that's in their bill?
That's in their bill.
Now, this is an amendment to the House bill.
Correct. It is my understanding that the House is going to amend the Senate bill also to include the MDE amendments.
So our sense is they will concur with this amendment,
Okay, and then the House is going to amend the Senate bill
and we will concur with that amendment.
with both the plastics and with this?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any objection to adopting the amendment? Okay, adopting the bill as amended with their amendment and our additional amendment. Anybody object to Bill 275 in that posture? Seeing none, that will be a 10-0-1 vote. Let's stop. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. You got to remind me again. We added co-sponsors to 1346,
It would be 780.
it was the cross-file of 1346. There are some senators who wanted to be on that Senate bill. There were also probably the same senators who wanted to be on the cross-file of 1202, whose number I can't remember. Does anybody object, in hindsight, adding those same people to the second bill? Any objection? Okay, then that's in the backwards order, but we're adding those people. Okay, look, we spent a lot of hours on cyber. I know the good senator spent a couple of years on this. We haven't gotten to the last chapter yet. Hopefully, we make progress. We will try to get that reprint sometime tomorrow. We will start sometime after we break tomorrow. It's only one session as of now, so we are going to spend a few hours. I don't want it to be a late night, but I want us to move through this list. So we have the rest of 43. We have 49. And there may be some bills on 44 that we also take up. So that's where we are. We have more than anybody else, and we're putting out more product than anybody else. So we'll probably vote from 1 or 1:30 till whatever, 5, or we get done, or however long it takes us. And there could be another list before tomorrow at 12 o'clock, is all I can tell you. There are still a lot of bills in our possession. Some might not move. Some we just haven't gotten to yet. We've got a hell of a lot of bills. 15, we probably have 30 on these two lists. And some are simple, some are not so simple.
So to the staff, thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Everyone is working,
9 months off after this.
yeah. Senator Hester.
I just wanted to thank the body for really slogging through that. It wasn't a pretty picture of sausage making, but I think that we have a better product. So I just wanted to say thank you to the committee, to the chair for his leadership, and to Alexis for drafting.